It's official, the Australia tour was all about selling, and yes, I did say the word selling, merching is not strong enough, the children. So-called Prince Archie, so-called Princess Lili. Now the Sussexes are openly defying Queen Elizabeth II.
There's a line most parents would never cross. A line between sharing your family with the world and turning your children into a product. And this week, that line was crossed. Loudly, deliberately, and with a price tag attached. Meghan Markle's lifestyle brand. As Ever has just dropped a Mother's Day collection, and for the first time since launching the brand, she has brought her children directly into it. Not in a behind-the-scenes, sweet mom influencer kind of way. No, she has named candles after them, priced at $64 each, and in the official press materials and product descriptions, she has used their full royal titles. Prince Archie of Sussex, Princess Lilibet of Sussex.
Network. But first, I've got to talk to you about these candles because, unfortunately, it's just the start of something very grim. And we saw when Meghan posted her Instagram story returning home last night that the children are absolutely part of everything she wants to do business-wise, because one of those cards was actually addressed to Princess Lilibet Diana. Yep.
Those are the selling points. Those are the hook. That is what she is leaning on to move product. And the reaction has been swift, widespread, and for the Sussex brand, deeply damaging. Let's break down exactly what was announced. Signature candle number 506 is tied to Archie's May 6th birthday. It's described in the press release as a warm, comforting scent inspired by Prince Archie of Sussex's birth date. Notes of ginger, neroli, and cashmere, with what the brand describes as a subtle wink to his red hair. And then signature candle number 604, inspired by Lilibet's June 4th birthday. A light floral fragrance with amber, water lily, and santal. The water lily a nod, of course, to her name. The Mother's Day drop also includes bundles, one of which is a $156 set pairing a new chocolate collaboration with custom matchboxes, all anchored by these two candles. Prince Archie of Sussex, Princess Lilibet of Sussex, right there in the marketing copy, right there on the product page. And the timing of this announcement, the day after what would have been Queen Elizabeth II's 100th birthday. That detail alone tells you almost everything you need to know. Now, it's worth understanding how we got here, because context matters enormously. When Harry and Meghan stepped back
to use these cancer victims, still front and center, but what is abundantly clear is that Meghan now views her husband as just a bit part player in this business, because it's all about her. This visit was all about her. Oh, and by the way, him eating grossly at dinner, which I thought was pretty weird thing to include. Yeah, look at that, look at that. Anyway, then of course, the moment she's back, the moment she's starting to push the products again, we get the big announcement.
As senior working royals in January 2020, there was an explicit understanding, and this was enforced by the Queen personally, that they could not commercialize their royal titles. The Sussex Royal Foundation was wound down. The branding was stripped. The palace made it crystal clear. You cannot monetize the crown. You cannot sell products off the back of being a prince and princess of the United Kingdom. Queen Elizabeth II drew that line herself. And now, 6 years later, Meghan is not just approaching that line. She is dancing across it with a product catalog. Both Archie and Lilibet received their prince and princess titles following King Charles's accession to the throne in 2022. Before that, Archie was simply Master Archie. Lilibet was simply Miss Lilibet Mountbatten Windsor. The titles came automatically under letters patent when Charles became king. They were not requested. They were not earned. They were inherited through lineage. And now those inherited titles, the titles of a sovereign nation's royal family, are being used to sell scented candles on a lifestyle website. And nobody in Buckingham Palace appears to be stopping it. This comes directly on the heels of the Australia tour. Harry and Meghan spent 4 days down under last week, Melbourne, Canberra, Sydney, their first joint visit to Australia since 2018. And the Sussex machine was briefing hard that this was a triumph.
604 is inspired by Lilibet, June 4 birthday, and listed as Princess Lilibet of Sussex's birth date. It's described as a light floral scent inspired by Princess Lilibet of Sussex's birth date, adding a sense of brightness and openness to the home, with notes of amber, water lily, and santal, a nod to her name. This candle is inspired by Meghan's daughter, Princess Lilibet, the release adds.
A roaring success, a sign of things to come. But the numbers tell a very different story, and those numbers have now been confirmed by Roy Morgan, Australia's oldest and most respected independent polling company, founded in 1941, with over 80 years of continuous operation. This is not a Twitter poll. This is not a fan site. This is the real thing. A nationally representative survey of 1,767 Australian adults aged 18 and above was conducted across April 18th and 19th, commissioned alongside a Channel 7 special. And the results are, by any measure, devastating for the Sussexes. More than 82% of the Australian adult population, approximately 18.1 million people, were aware of the visit. So they got attention. That part worked. But awareness is not the same as approval. Of those who knew about the visit, a crushing 81% said it had not improved their opinion of the couple. Only 19% said it had. Asked whether the trip would help Harry repair his relationship with the king, 87% said no. Asked whether the tour had shown them a more positive side of Meghan, 75% said no. And asked whether Harry and Meghan had been treated unfairly by the royal family, the entire foundation of the Sussex victim narrative, 69% of Australians said no. Think about those numbers for a moment. This wasn't a tabloid hit piece.
Confirm that starting this week, as ever, will lean into expanded fragrance offerings. And then we hear from Meghan. She's given an interview to TNC, her pals at TNC, and she says, "The goal for As Ever has always been finding ways we can bring beauty and ease to your life. As a host, as a guest, as a friend, as a mom. In whatever way you show up, I want As Ever to make it feel special."
This wasn't manufactured outrage on social media. This was a properly conducted, nationally representative poll from the country's most established research firm. And 4 out of 5 Australians who heard the Sussex pitch looked them in the eye and said, "No thanks, mate." If you've never questioned the mainstream narrative around this tour, you should be questioning it now. And if you want to keep hearing the stories the major outlets won't tell you clearly, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss what's coming next. The optics from the tour itself told a similar story. Photos emerged comparing the 2018 visit, when Harry and Meghan drew enormous crowds that required genuine crowd control infrastructure, to the 2026 visit, where those same barriers stood largely empty. The transformation is stark. In 2018, they were mobbed. In 2026, one Australian woman at Bondi Beach became something of an accidental hero when footage went viral of her simply refusing to move, sitting in her spot, reading her book, completely unbothered by the royal motorcade making its way past. That image captures something real. It captures the shift in public sentiment that the Sussex team desperately does not want acknowledged. The Sussex motorcade, the formal security detail, the sweeping town car convoy, all of it performing grandeur for crowds that largely weren't there. And the hospital visit. This deserves particular attention. Reports emerged that before entering the Royal Children's Hospital in Melbourne, Meghan was overheard saying, "Let's make this quick."
And the royal T added, "Well, it's finally happened. We all knew that one day Meghan would start merching her own children, and today is the day." It is. And it's really, really sad. You've got to have some fun with it, though, as Seeing the Veil absolutely did with this picture. But the serious side of it, of course, is that Queen Elizabeth II strictly forbade commercializations of the title King Charles III.
And then the cameras rolled, and the smiles went on, and the narrative of compassionate Duchess visiting sick children was packaged and distributed to the press. But that comment leaked. And in the context of everything else, the speaking fees, the product launches, the brand deals, it reads not as an off-the-cuff moment, but as a glimpse behind the curtain. Harry's keynote at a summit where tickets reached up to $1,700 per person, Meghan's appearance at a women's event in Sydney where her reported fee was in the region of $250,000.
Look at that. And that death stare is what so many people have had to deal with, is what so many people have had to eventually walk away from, given it's driven them to mental breakdowns. Now, Brittany of the Royal News Network is not impressed about the launch at all. She posted last night, now Meghan Markle is not only officially merching off her children, but their royal titles as well.
This trip wasn't charity work with a side business. It was business with a side of charity optics. Now, the royals' cosplay element of this tour has not gone unnoticed either. Images of Harry and Meghan doing a bike boat ride in Sydney surfaced alongside photos of William and Catherine doing the exact same thing in London. The similarity was not subtle, and the pattern has become consistent enough that even casual observers are picking up on it. Meghan watching what Catherine does and then replicating it. The phone call taken during a public engagement. The bike ride on the water. The maternal imagery. The warm and wholesome couple brand. All of it tracking, almost beat for beat, what the Princess of Wales does naturally and what Meghan appears to do by design. And design is the word, isn't it? Because nothing about this brand operation happens by accident. The As Ever candles were not thrown together in a weekend. The press release to People magazine was coordinated. The Town & Country interview was placed. The announcement landing the day after Queen Elizabeth's centenary is either a breathtaking coincidence or a deliberate choice. And at this point, nobody is giving the benefit of the doubt. The 100th birthday of Queen Elizabeth II was marked this week with a beautiful documentary that aired in the UK, a genuine moving tribute to a woman whose legacy continues to shape the monarchy. And right in the middle of that week, Meghan Markle launched a candle named after Princess Lilibet.
Is feeling about this, Brittany, it's not just how people like me who are passionate about this are feeling, it's how the world is feeling about what she's just done.
I mean, Dan, it's really crazy that she just doesn't seem to see reality here. She lives in this deluded fantasy. It drives so much of her. I mean, she definitely fits the clinical definition of narcissism. And if she could just take a couple of steps back, I mean, we know she...
Not just any Lilibet. The nickname Queen Elizabeth was given by a young Princess Margaret, and which carried through 7 decades of family life. That name belongs to history. And now it belongs to a product description on a lifestyle website. Let's talk about what Queen Elizabeth actually forbade. The commercialization of royal titles was not ambiguous. It was explicit. When the Sussexes announced their step back from royal duties, the palace communicated clearly that the Sussex royal brand could not be used for commercial purposes. The Queen insisted on it personally. King Charles has been considerably less firm on enforcement, and that gap, that absence of boundaries, is exactly the space Meghan has walked into. First, it was the titles appearing quietly in bios. Then, it was the royal wedding candle, released earlier this year through As Ever. Now, it's the children. And the concern from royal commentators and critics alike is that this is not the end. This is the escalation. If the children's names and titles can be used to sell candles this month, what comes next month? What comes when the Australian tour blueprint, which has clearly been recognized as a failure, needs replacing with something bigger? Because here is the commercial reality of what's happening. As Ever is not performing the way Meghan needs it to. The raspberry jam sold out, yes, but the broader brand has struggled to establish itself in a crowded lifestyle market. Netflix distanced itself from the brand.
If you create a good business, it should be just based around you having good ideas, creating good products. Meghan Markle does not have any ideas. She is not good at business. She can't create good products. And so she constantly has to mine her royal connections to try to make something work, and she's getting diminishing returns for it. And I think this latest collaboration, not only is it offensive, she's launching it the day after.
The Instagram rollout had technical failures. And critically, the thing that distinguishes As Ever from any other lifestyle brand is Meghan's royal connection. Because without that, she is simply another celebrity with a candle line. And there are hundreds of those. The royal titles are the differentiator. They are the brand equity. And as the backlash grows, as more people point out the hypocrisy of someone who claimed the monarchy was harmful to their family's mental health, then turns around and uses royal titles to sell Mother's Day merchandise, the goodwill is eroding faster than the sales can justify. And the children themselves have no voice in this. Archie is 6 years old. Lilibet is 4. They cannot consent. They cannot say, "I don't want a candle named after me. I don't want my birthday used as a marketing hook. I don't want my royal title, a title I was born into and had no choice about, attached to a product description." They have no agency here. And laws around exactly this kind of parental monetization of children are actually being introduced in various US states right now, largely in response to influencer culture. The irony of Meghan having spoken publicly about the dangers of social media to children, then packaging her own children as lifestyle brand assets, is not lost on anyone watching closely. Drop a comment below. Do you think the titles should be stripped? Do you think King Charles has a responsibility to act here? I read every single one, and I want to know what you think. Compare this for a moment to Crown Princess Marie Chantal of Greece, who has run a successful children's clothing line for years.
Queen herself, as in Camilla, to Helen Mirren and Sheila Hancock and Peter Phillips, just talking about this woman's life. And it was just a beautiful insight and a beautiful reminder, not something that any of us who followed her didn't know, but it was beautifully done. And at one point, Brittany, it used her nickname, but only in the context of it was something that Prince Philip had called her at that time when she was very happily married and heading off to Malta.
Does she plaster Crown Princess of Greece on her press releases to sell product? She does not. The brand stands on its own merits. The design, the quality, the identity. That's what a real business looks like. A real business does not need to borrow the gravity of a centuries-old institution to justify its existence. A real business creates value that speaks for itself. What Meghan has built is not that. What Meghan has built is an operation that requires the royal connection to function, and that means the royal connection will continue to be mined, deeper and deeper, until it either generates enough revenue or collapses entirely. Meanwhile, the Roy Morgan poll had one additional question that has received less attention but may be the most revealing of all. Australians were asked whether they thought Queen Elizabeth herself would have approved of this trip, given that Harry had stepped back as a working royal. The result was close. 51% said no, 49% said yes. The nation is almost evenly split on that question. But here's what's striking. A slim majority believe the woman who forbade the commercialization of royal titles, who made it explicitly clear that the Sussex brand could not be monetized, who spent the last 2 years of her life navigating the fallout from the Sussexes' departure. A slim majority believe she would not have approved. And this week, in her centenary week, while documentaries aired celebrating her extraordinary life and legacy, Meghan Markle quietly launched a candle called Princess Lilibet. The timing is not incidental. The symbolism is not accidental. And the message it sends to the British public, to the Australian public, to anyone who still cares about the institution, it's loud and it's clear. There will be those who dismiss all of this as the predictable outrage cycle. There will be Sussex supporters who say Meghan has every right to run her business as she sees fit, that her children have royal titles, that using those titles is simply accurate. And technically, they're not wrong that the titles exist. But there is a difference between acknowledging that your children hold royal titles and using those titles in press releases to sell $64 candles. One is a fact. The other is a commercial strategy. And when that commercial strategy involves children who cannot speak for themselves, children whose identities and inheritances are being packaged and distributed through a lifestyle brand, that is the line. That's the one that matters. The Australia tour failed. The polling confirms it. The empty crowd barriers confirm it. The viral video of a woman refusing to move from her beach spot and simply reading her book while the Sussex motorcade rolls past. That confirms it better than any statistic. And the response to that failure is not reflection. It is not recalibration. The response is to come home and immediately launch candles named after the children with royal titles in the product description. The response is to give an interview to Town & Country magazine describing it all as a sweet tribute. The response is to treat a commercially motivated operation as though it is an act of love. The world is watching. And increasingly, the world is not buying it, in any sense of the word. If this is the kind of storytelling you won't find in the mainstream press, make sure you like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you're here for every update. Because there's a lot more to come. And something tells me the next chapter in this story is going to be even bigger than this one.